guys, from Steph to you, giving you my UFC Fight Night 68 recap. It was a really good night for me. I had most of my picks go the way I expected, especially the big top three fights with Rothwell, Henderson, and Poirier. But let's start off at the prelim card. Well, we had Quiñones versus Morales. This one I did call incorrectly. I hadn't really seen too much of these guys. It's really hard, when you're the fighters that come up on these UFC on Fox or UFC on FX in the preliminary bouts. They're really hard to kind of gauge because there's not much tape on them, and the fighters that they have fought aren't really, they're not really UFC caliber fighters. As far as they're kind of making their debuts, or guys that they've fought haven't done well. But Quiñones got landed some good shots and then got his back and submitted him, and that was a tough one. The other one in the preliminary bout was Jake Collier versus Ricardo Abreu. Now, I did not quite agree with the decision on this one. I mean, if you're looking from a purely, output of punches and strikes, then Collier, I guess, gets the nod. But I think, Abreu having the takedowns that he had, Collier never took him down. I did think that he should have won. So I didn't really agree with that one. I had Abreu, although I gotta admit I was a little disappointed with Abreu. He was like headhunting the entire time rather than setting up combinations, and he ended up losing. The next one, this is one that I thought could kind of go either way, because Justin Edwards and Joe Proctor, because Edwards is the bigger, stronger guy. But it was a truly great finish. I mean, 2 seconds left in the fight, Proctor pulls it out. I found out the story the same as anybody else, that his grandfather that had raised him had died a few weeks ago, and he was able to get the win, and so that's great. The next one, Chris Wade versus Christos Giagos. Again, I had this one. This was supposed to be my pick of the night. I on DraftKings, I didn't go with him as much. I ended up switching my money over towards Francisco Rivera. But I really thought Christos Giagos, if he would have fought smart, he would have won, because he actually did rock Chris Wade on the feet. But for some reason, every time that he would get close, he would let Chris Wade grab him, and he wouldn't, look to disengage, and he just got outclassed. I will say though, Chris Wade didn't do much when he could get him down, but didn't do much once he got him down. The next one, I called this one. This is Omari Akhmedov versus Brian Ebersole. I knew this one was Brian Ebersole, like I said in my last video, I think he just doesn't have it. I never thought he was a top fighter anyway, and he got leg kicked into retirement. It sucks to have someone go out that way, but it is what it is, and so he lost. Next one, Shawn Jordan versus Derrick Lewis. This was a great fight. I was a little worried about Shawn Jordan in the first 15 to 20 seconds, just because Derrick Lewis came out so aggressive, and he really kind of brought it. But I kind of felt with the crowd behind him that Shawn Jordan would ultimately be able to get the win, and he did. That kick that he landed. You don't see a lot of 265. I'm sure, at the day of the fight, he's probably closer to 280. He's a big guy to be throwing stuff like that, and just a great finish by Shawn Jordan. Again, I called this fight. Another fight, and I thought this should have been performance of the night, but they didn't give it to him, was Francisco Rivera versus Alex Caceres. He came in against the longer, taller fighter and just laid the leather on him and put him out in 21 seconds. I cannot say enough about Francisco Rivera. A little bit of his backstory really, kind of makes you want to pull for the guy. Losing to Faber the way he did, I kind of thought that was a bad deal, and very happy that he got the win tonight. The next one, this was the shock of the night for me. I don't think anybody called this one. It's Anthony Birchak versus Joe Soto. Joe Soto, after going 5 rounds with T.J. Dillashaw, was a heavy favorite, and he came out, and Anthony Birchak just absolutely wrecked him. I could not get over how many fights were finished. You think about it, there was only 2 decisions tonight. That was Collier and Wade and Giagos. That it was all finishes tonight. It was great card. As far as the results came out. But anyway, yeah, Joe Soto just got caught and just couldn't recover. Other thing I thought was weird was the shot that he got hit with when he had his arms up. I don't know. There wasn't like a final blow that dropped him. It was just kind of like he was getting hit in the arms, and all of a sudden he just kind of fell over. So maybe it was just the accumulation of punches that kind of did it for him. But it was a pretty good fight for Anthony Birchak. Next up, Brian Ortega and Thiago Tavares. This one was very frustrating. I thought Thiago Tavares, he was winning the fight. Besides for the big cut he had on his forehead, he was winning the fight by points. He was on his way to a decision win, and he actually caught Brian Ortega a few times. But Brian Ortega, showed that I guess he's obviously been working on his striking, and he came out and did really well. This is his first career knockout, and very surprised. So this was the second one that was like, wow, I did not see that coming, because especially he was losing the fight. And then Dustin Poirier, there's a guy that had commented on my other video saying how, oh, Yancy Medeiros is going to do this and that. Dustin Poirier took him out. I mean, just I props to Medeiros that he stood in there after being rocked and dropped twice, and he came back and for another minute and so, and then he lost. But yeah, Dustin Poirier just really showed that he belongs at 155. That's where he really needs to be at, and I was just absolutely thrilled to see him get the win. Then the other one, this was all these two fights here. I took the underdogs, and everybody else was saying, oh, Matt Mitrione, his speed, he's athletic. Let me tell you something. Matt Mitrione, he's 36 years old. He came to the sport relatively late in life, and because he is such an athletic guy and played in the NFL and things, he's able to do some things that help him out. But you got guys like Ben Rothwell Ben Rothwell, people forget because he's such a big guy. He's got quite a lot of submissions wins as well. I'm not saying that I would pick him in a jiu-jitsu match with Frank Mir or Fabricio Verdun, but he definitely has been here before, and he's been there against top level guys, whereas Matt Mitrione hasn't really fought top level fighters, and I called this one. And again, the guy that commented on my last video said, it was funny, the guy said, and I'm quoting him, he said, it'll take 2 minutes for Matt Mitrione to leave Ben Rothwell unconscious, and he was talking all sorts of smack, and I guess it was the exact opposite, and Ben Rothwell put Matt Mitrione to sleep and had him tapping like this, so he had him out in 2 minutes. And anyway, and then Dan Henderson versus Tim Boetsch. Again, I called this one as well. I mean, Dan Henderson, I know he's got a little bit of a suspect chin now after the last knockout that he had, but Tim Boetsch has never really fought elite fighters, and when he has, he's lost. Dan Henderson has been in there with wars. You just look back at his career. Guys like Michael Bisping, he's put out. Vanderlei Silva, he's put out. Fedor Emelianenko, he's put out. He's been in there with the best of the best, and I mean, it showed. He made quick work of Tim Boetsch, and I called it. So, like I said, guys, if you followed my picks, hopefully you made some good money. I ended up, I quadrupled my money. I bet $25. I won a little over 100. So, my highest ranking that I had was I came in. Let's see here. If you look at my contest, just to give you guys my output, I came in third out of 2,000, 28th out of 8,000. I came in a lot of top 10s, a lot of top 20s that I was able to, that I was fortunate enough to make. So, like I said, stick with me, guys, and we'll get you guys some money, and hopefully we can make some in the process. And but if you took my picks, you should definitely have won some big money on Rothwell and on Henderson and on Poirier. So like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys around. Thank you.